Well, the X-Men are supposed to be entering the MCU at some point. We're not entirely sure how it's all going to play out because you have like Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine coming into the MCU for a multiverse film. We also got Beast teased in the Marvels. So we don't know if it's going to be like a full reboot or some of the characters are going to stay the same. From my understanding, Marvel's not even allowed to start the casting until 2025 just because of how the contract works with 20th Century Fox and all the rights and all that stuff. And I'm hoping that the X-Men are able to enter the MCU before Secret Wars. That way they can join the Avengers in that. But just assuming all the characters do get recast, here is my fan cast for all the different characters. Starting off with Wolverine, the most iconic one probably. Now I don't think anyone can really replace Hugh Jackman. That was one of the most perfect castings in the history of cinema. But there is one person that I do think could actually make a solid Wolverine in and of itself, and that is Henry Cavill. The whole reason this kind of came to my attention was from the theories that Henry Cavill will be in Deadpool and Wolverine as a Wolverine variant, and that kind of got me thinking maybe he could actually be the MCU Wolverine, although I don't know how that's going to work out if he would actually be in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie if he is going to be a Wolverine variant. I don't know if he would still be the MCU Wolverine since they aren't supposed to start casting on that, or if there would be multiple variants played by him. But obviously, Henry Cavill plays Superman in the DCEU. It's not like he's new to comic book movies and stuff. He knows what he's doing. And I definitely think he can make a really good performance as Wolverine. Probably the only other person that I could even imagine playing Wolverine other than Hugh Jackman. Then we have Professor X, and I'm going to go with Michael Rosenbaum on this one. He played Lex Luthor in the Smallville series, so it's not like he's new to playing bald comic book characters. But yeah, overall, I don't really have much to say about this. I would just say I think he seems about the right age for this. I know Patrick Stewart started playing him when he was in his early 60s, I believe. But if you look at the comics, it does feel like Professor X is more of like a middle-aged person. So that seems about right. Next up, we have Magneto, and it's going to be hard to replace Ian McKellen. But I have two different people that I think could work for the role of Magneto. The first one is Terrence Stamp. Now, he played General Zod in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, but that was way back in the day. But I do think he could actually work as Magneto. He was actually considered for the role of Magneto when they were casting and ended up going with Ian McKellen. The only reason I'm a little hesitant about this one though is because he's in his 80s and he probably won't be sticking around for too long. Although he has been acting recently, he hasn't retired yet. But since I did choose a younger version for Professor X, I don't know if I want to go with a Magneto that's this old. So that's why my second option for Magneto is Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman can obviously play a variety of characters, and I know everyone I mentioned so far has played a DC character. He's played Commissioner Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy. But at this point, I mean, what actor hasn't been in either Marvel or DC? But I think Gary Oldman honestly could be a pretty good Magneto. Next up, I have Glenn Powell as Cyclops. Glenn Powell has obviously kind of rose to fame in recent history. He was in the new Top Gun movie, and he's been in a couple other movies since then. And I think he has the personality that's right for Cyclops. I just definitely think he could pull that off. I don't know if there's any beating James Marsden, but I just think he would be really good in the role. And I do think he has expressed interest recently in being in some comic book movies, like maybe playing Batman or something, which I don't think that would honestly work out for him. But a role like this, I could definitely see. Next up, we have Iceman, and I'm going with Robert Pattinson. I really don't have much to say here other than I just think he would be good in the role. Then we have Daniel Radcliffe as Beast, and I'm thinking they could probably do motion capture with this while not making it too cartoony, making it still look like him, kind of like what they did with Thanos. I definitely think they could pull that off. I know a lot of people have been talking about Daniel Radcliffe could be one of the X-Men, maybe even Wolverine. But I think he would honestly work good as Beast. Next up, I got Emma Watson as Rogue, I guess keeping on the subject of Harry Potter. Rogue really struck me as a hard one to pick an actress for because she's just one of those characters that you don't associate with actresses too much. You just think of the comics more. But I do think Emma Watson could definitely do a solid job in the role. Then we have Ryan Gosling as Gambit. A lot of people have been saying Ryan Gosling should be in the MCU. He's been in some pretty interesting movies lately, and I definitely think he is headed that way. And I think he would make a good Gambit, if not, maybe a good Ghost Rider if they do an MCU movie for that. Next up, I got Jesse Eisenberg as Angel. What do you know, it's another Lex Luthor actor, although this one was younger, and probably not the best choice to play Lex Luthor. So it's not like I really associate him with that role as much. Although personality-wise, I really don't think it's that bad of a version of the character. Not really as bad as people make it out to be. But anywho, back to X-Men. I think he should be in this movie, and this is the role I would want him to be in. Next up, I got Zoe Kravitz as Storm, and I think this one multiple people have actually been talking about. Obviously, she played Catwoman in the Batman, but I also think she could play other comic book characters like Storm. Now, I'm not going to lie, I didn't put too much thought into this, but assuming that this is just going to be a voice role, I want The Rock as Colossus. And it doesn't have to be like his generic voice that he does for everything. Like, I'm sure he can actually make it sound like Colossus. I just really wanted him to be in this movie, but he's just way too strong to be Professor X. Although he does pass the bald qualification. And finally, I have Anne Hathaway as Mystique. She also played Catwoman, and that was in The Dark Knight Rises in 2012. And I think she would be pretty good in the role of Mystique. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Who would you want to play all these different X-Men characters? What are your thoughts on the X-Men in the MCU in the future? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.